What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. We are less than a week away from the start of the Premier League season. Today we're going to have a look at 10 of the most highly owned players in FPL and decide whether you guys should be owning them or avoiding them. Welcome back everyone. So as I mentioned in the intro, we're going to go through 10 of the most owned players in FPL. Now all of these players are owned by over 20% of the game. So I'm guaranteeing you own at least one of these in this list, if not two or three. And we're going to dissect them and whether you should be owning them or whether I actually think there are better options elsewhere that you could be getting with your money, so you should be avoiding them. So let's dive straight into them. The first one that we've got is Luke Shaw of Manchester United. Now he comes in at 5.5 million. He's got 4.07 points per start. 6 attacking returns in his 32 games last season isn't actually that much in comparison to some of the other defenders. And there is a little bit of doubt about whether he'll be back for game week 1. So it's worth looking at. However, it does sound like he'll be back for the friendly of Manchester United today, which haven't taken place at time of recording. So we know that he has that attacking threat and he has that ability. With Manchester United having signed Raphinha to go into the centre-back position, it does feel like they may be a little bit more solid defensively than they were, although will all these players be ready for the start of game week 1? I do like Shaw. I think his attacking threat is really good, and being priced at just 5.5 million, it makes him worth the gamble, I think, for the start of the season. So for me, Luke Shaw is an own. Happy to own him at his price and is in my team at the moment. The next one we have is Raphinha of Leeds, who comes in at 6.5 million. So last season was Raphinha's first season in the Premier League. He got 4.86 points per start. For a player of that price, that's a really good return. And as time goes on, he became more adapted to the league. So he maybe started a bit more slowly, and as time went on, he got a bit more into that lead system, a bit more adapted to the Premier League, and so his returns started to come a bit more frequently towards the end of the season. Being on set pieces allows him to have another route to points that he can get, so it's not just open play, but he can get assists from taking corners and free kicks and everything like that. Raphinha did underperform slightly last season as well. However, there is a little bit of doubt about how Leeds will perform this season. We often see teams who have come up from the Championship having a little bit of second season syndrome and not performing as well. And there are some difficult opening fixtures for Leeds at the start of the season. As you can see, Manchester United, Liverpool, Everton, Newcastle, Burnley and West Ham all in their first 6 is potentially difficult. However, I think Leeds will perform well again this season, and 6.5 million for Raphinha is still a really nice price. So I am definitely still happy to own him, and if you have him in your team, definitely a good pick to go to the start of the season with. Next up is Ollie Watkins coming in at 7.5 million for Aston Villa. So last season he got over 4.5 points per start, a really good return with 14 goals and 9 assists. So a really nice solid return from Ollie Watkins last season. They've added Digne, Bailey and Ings, so that attacking threat is likely to be more. There's that fluidity. They're not going to rely on Jack Grealish as much as they've had. However, there's now that Ings has signed, it may be that Watkins is going out and playing on the left-hand side of that wing because Ollie Watkins will likely play through the middle. Now, there are other forwards at this price that I do also like. They're a nice start to the season for Aston Villa, that is true, with Watford away and Newcastle at home and Brentford at home. However, for me, if we know that Watkins is going to play through the middle, then it's okay to own him. But if he is going to be playing out on that left-hand side, because there are so many other forwards at that price that I really like, I'm putting Ollie Watkins in the avoid category. Now, I can see why people would want to own him for game week 1, and he's not a complete avoid. However, if he is playing out wide, Danny Ings for just 0.5 million more, or Antonio, or someone like that, is probably who I'd favour for the start of the season. Next up is Digne of Everton coming in at 5.5 million. So another 5.5 million defender. He's one of those players that I think we've always wanted to own, and he's always had such potential, but has he ever fully capitalised on what he was capable of? Last season, he got 4 points per start. He got 9 attacking returns last season and will likely be on set pieces if James Rodriguez leaves, or if he isn't quite in the starting 11 as that may be imagined for Everton this season. So the start of the season is really nice. Those fixtures you can see down in the bottom left: Southampton, Leeds, Brighton, Burnley, Aston Villa and Norwich. It's just whether we're all getting on board that Everton hype train a little bit too much and that we don't know what Rafa Benitez is going to do with them. However, for me, given the attacking threat he has, given that he's likely to be on more set pieces, and given those fixtures, he is definitely an own for me and happy to own him. The fact that he's over 20% is no surprise given his price. Next up on the list, we have Jack Grealish, 8 million, recently signed, of course, as we all know, for Manchester City. Now, we can look at how he did at Aston Villa last season. So he got 5.5 points per start. We know how good he was at Aston Villa. He was their main creative force, their main goal threat as well. He got FPL points basically playing for a worse team, and if he plays for Manchester City, he'll be getting more chances, he'll be having more opportunities to create chances for other people. So I think even though he was the main man at Aston Villa, if he's starting at Manchester City, his attacking threat, his assists and goals will likely go up. However, that is a bit of a problem for him, is that the amount of players that Manchester City have makes him a bit of a rotation threat. Now, it does sound like Foden and De Bruyne are not going to be ready for the start of the season, which could mean that Grealish is playing in midfield rather than on the wing, which I imagine is where he signed with. But still in those positions, there's the likes of Gundogan, still the likes of Bernardo Silva, Rodri, and whether Grealish has even wanted to play in midfield at Manchester City at the moment is still up for debate. They do have a good start to the season, apart from a couple of games as Chelsea away, Leicester away in there. But Norwich at home, Southampton at home, Arsenal at home, all three home games, is definitely a good chance for Grealish to hit the ground running. However, for me, there are a lot of good midfielders around the price of 7.5, 8 million, 8.5 million, for example, up to Havertz. You could go Jota, you could go Mason Greenwood, who you're much more assured to get those minutes from. So given that rotation threat, unless we get sort of confirmation that he is ready to play and that he's going to be starting in the season, which is something we never get from Pep, I am going to have to put Jack Grealish in the avoid category for game week 1. There's no doubt he's a very talented player, and if he continues to get some starts in the league and if he gets a complete run of minutes, then he could be a great asset at his price. But I just always say at the start of the season, don't make life difficult for yourself. Don't pick players that you think you may need to transfer out early on. So I think Jack Grealish falls into that category. So for myself, I will be avoiding him. Next up on the list is Martinez of Aston Villa, the highest scoring goalkeeper from last season, the most owned goalkeeper in the game at the moment, coming in at 5.5 million. However, I think a lot of that ownership is due to the auto-pick teams that are still there in the game. He got 4.89 points per start, which is a crazy return for a goalkeeper, let alone one that cost just 4.5 million at the start of the season. They kept the third most clean sheets last season, only behind Chelsea and Manchester City, and we know how good their defences are to own, particularly at the end of last season with the likes of Rudiger, Azpilicueta, Reece James, Chilwell all in our defences, and then the likes of the Manchester City defenders that we owned in Cancelo, Ruben Dias as well. So we know how good they are, and we're putting Martinez in a bracket with them. However, he has had a bit of a price increase this year from 4.5 million to 5.5 million, and there are a lot of goalkeepers at a lower price than him this season. So for example, Bachmann of Watford I really like, Sanchez, Gaeta, Dubravka, and then the 5.0 goalkeepers in Meslier, Henderson are all really nice options I think this season. As well as this, apart from the first 3 games, there is a difficult opening fixture for Aston Villa. Yes, he could get 3 clean sheets in the first 3, and that's quite possible. However, after that, I don't see many clean sheets for them. So over the whole course of the first 6 game weeks, I really think that there are other options elsewhere. So I've put him in the avoid category just because someone like Sanchez of Brighton, I expect to keep a similar number of clean sheets over the first 6. And at the start of the season, that 1 million that you could save going Sanchez of Brighton or Bachmann of Watford over Martinez is just so important, and it could really help you improve the strength of your team in midfield. So I don't think he's worth the price. I think he's got returns on him, and if you have the spare money, go for it. But I think that 1 million you could spend elsewhere is more worth it than upgrading a 4.5 goalkeeper to Martinez. Next up, we have Calvert-Lewin of Everton, who comes in at 8 million as a forward. So we know how well he did last season, particularly at the first half. If you started the season with him or got on him at the early stages in game weeks 2 or 3, for example, you would have got a lot of returns from Calvert-Lewin because of just how consistent he was in front of goal. With that in mind, he got 5.03 points per start, which is a great return. Basically an assist every single game on average, and he started last season very strongly. So he came into the season and faded towards the end, and hopefully he can do that this season, start the season strongly, and even if he fades towards the end, it would be a great pick for game week 1. A lot of the reason he got so many points is the amount of chances that his team created with him. So 0.94 big chances per game, and a big chance is basically one that you'd probably expect a forward to score 75% of the time or so. So that is why he did so well. And this is third amongst all forwards in the game. It was only behind Jamie Vardy and Harry Kane of Tottenham. So we know how expensive they are, and Calvert-Lewin only coming in at 8 million could make him a really nice alternative. Start of the season is Southampton, Burnley, Leeds, Aston Villa, Brighton and Norwich. We spoke about it with Digne that it's a great start to the season and it has the potential for Calvert-Lewin to hit the ground running. There is a bit of a doubt about whether he'll be fit and ready to start the season, so do keep an eye on that if you do go for him. However, if he is fit, then I have to put Calvert-Lewin in the own category for the start of the season. At 8 million, there are other forwards you could go with, but I think he has good potential, so I wouldn't put anyone off going for him. Just before we dive straight into the last few picks of the video, 70% of you guys watching are not subscribed. If you could just hit that as well to help me grow to 10k before the start of the season, it would be much appreciated. Next up, we have Aaron Cresswell coming in at West Ham at 5.5 million. So we know Cresswell was so good for us last season, taking corners, free kicks, which meant he got 9 attacking returns, but he did fade towards the second end of the last season. Overall, over 4 points per start, which is really nice, but he has seen a price increase from 5 million up to 5.5 million. And given that he was actually pretty quiet for the second half of the season in comparison to the first half, as he moved position slightly, and Vladimir Coufal, who played at right wing back, actually played much better in the second half of the season from an FPL point of view, who also got 9 attacking returns and played at wing back. And actually in the last sort of 10 game weeks or so, Coufal got 5 assists, whereas Cresswell only got 2. I think that there's a real option to go with Coufal over Cresswell. And as I said, at the start of the season, these sort of 0.5 millions that you can save by going, for example, Coufal over Cresswell could be really vital to improving the rest of your squad. The start of the season is nice for Cresswell, so Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Southampton, all in the first 4 game weeks. However, given the price of other West Ham defenders, I'm going with avoid. It's not avoiding the defence, but I don't think Cresswell is the pick that I would be going with out of all of them. Next up, we have Bruno Fernandes of Manchester United. Now, there is a lot of talk. He's one of the most highly owned players in FPL at the moment, coming in at 12 million. He got 6.7 points per start. He was the highest scoring player in FPL. However, he did fade towards the end of last season. So sort of from game weeks 25 to 38, he was a bit quieter and didn't get quite as many attacking returns. He played a bit deeper when Pogba came into the starting lineup, and then there were a lot of movement going on up front around him that he didn't actually score that many goals. There were less penalties towards the start of the season, so there is that little bit of doubt. However, he did get 0.8 attacking returns per start, and he has been fully rested. He did go to the Euros, didn't play very many minutes at all, so has had a pretty good rest going into the start of the season. And there is a really nice start to the season for Manchester United. So you can see Leeds, Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle, West Ham, Aston Villa, 6 games that you would probably expect, a few maybe difficult ones later on against West Ham and Aston Villa, but you would still expect them to score and win each of these 6 games. So even though Bruno Fernandes is coming in at a pretty expensive price of 12 million, at the moment I am owning him and he is in my team for game week 1. Finally on the list, we have Ruben Dias of Manchester City coming in at 6 million. Now, Ruben Dias was one of the reasons that Manchester City came out with the Golden Glove, the most clean sheets in the Premier League last season. He got 4.4 points per start, but they kept a massive 19 clean sheets as a team. Now, Ruben Dias plays almost every week. He's the most nailed out of all the Manchester City defenders. So if you are looking for assured starts at the start of the season, this is the guy that you should be going with out of all of those. Not Cancelo, Zinchenko, Walker, Stones, Laporte. Dias is the one that's most likely to play each and every game week. They are the best defence in the league. However, he did get just 1 goal and 1 assist last season. So he is very much reliant on clean sheets. That attacking threat is there. He didn't capitalise on it last season, and it is a lot to pay for a defender that only gets you clean sheet points. The opening fixtures are of course nice, and because they kept 19 clean sheets, which is 1 in every 2 games, you'd still expect them to keep probably 3 clean sheets in the opening 6 despite the hard fixtures for them. So there's no doubt that he's a good asset, but at 6 million you are then having to compare him to the likes of Luke Shaw that we've talked about, Chilwell of Chelsea, Digne as well as some of those cheaper defenders who have got both attacking threat as well as that clean sheet potential that Ruben Dias is so known for. So I have put him in the avoid category just because he's so reliant on those clean sheets that I much prefer a defender that has route to points from many different avenues. So clean sheets, goals, assists, and Ruben Dias is just so reliant on one route to points. So for me, he's avoid given his price at the start of the season. So that's all we've got time for in this video. I hope you have enjoyed. Let me know in the comments down below whether you agree with these 10 picks or whether you disagree with some of these pick versus avoid. I'm sure you will, so let me know your reasoning down in the comments below. If you aren't in the league down below, of course, there is the code and there is a link in the description which will join you automatically. There is a prize every month to be won for subscribers only, so make sure you're in that league. But that's all we've got time for. There will be videos each and every week, so please do like and subscribe. Notifications on, of course, and I will see you all tomorrow.